I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking about the AIP diet. And really, the autoimmune protocol diet is a diet that we use in our couples coaching program. Typically, we will have people do the elimination diet, then we'll do some food sensitivity testing, and we may recommend the AIP diet. So we're going to talk about who this diet is right for. Is it right for you? How long we would do the diet? And what exactly the diet is. So excited for you to listen. Hey there, excited to announce that registration is now open for our free fertility diet challenge. The challenge starts on Monday, April the 19th, 2021. And in this live 5-day challenge, you'll learn which foods are right for your fertility so that you can prepare for pregnancy success, which foods could be harming your fertility so that you don't waste time consuming the wrong diet, and simple steps you can implement right away so that you can optimize preconception health and get pregnant naturally. I have worked with a chef who has a background in nutrition to prepare these new spring recipes that will help prepare your body for your baby. This challenge is for you and your partner. So to join the challenge, you just go to Fertility Diet Freebie, FREEBIE.com. That's Fertility Diet Freebie. Challenge starts April the 19th. It's live. Go to fertilitydietfreebie.com. I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 4 spots available per month to work with us. I would like to invite you and your partner to a Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call. And this call is for you if you meet at least one of these criteria. You've been trying to get pregnant for at least 2 years. You've been through at least one failed IUI or IVF. This calls for action takers. If you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. If you're seriously considering working with us, go to FabFertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. That's FabFertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. One theme that keeps coming up with the couples in our FabFertile couples coaching program is sleep. Whether it's insomnia, having a hard time falling asleep, waking up at night, or feeling tired when we wake up, sleep is critical for fertility and hormones. And that's why I'm so excited to have Blue Blocks as our podcast sponsor. So we're exposed to blue and green light from our phones, our tablets, our computers, indoor lights, and more. And this exposure impacts our melatonin production. And melatonin is essential for both female and male fertility. It helps determine the frequency and duration of our cycle and impacts sperm. There's lots of blue light blocking glasses on the market, but the ones from Blue Blocks, they've actually compared other popular brands, and Blue Blocks block 100% of blue and green light while other brands fall short. So I have their sleep glasses. They have red lenses, and the ones I have are a little translucent frame, and they're so stylish and really cool. And so they eliminate 100% of the blue and green light in the 400 nanometer to 550 nanometer range. So this is exact range that has been shown in clinical studies to disrupt melatonin and negatively impact your sleep. So all you do is wear your sleep glasses after sunset until it's time for bed, and you'll notice improved sleep after just one use. And it's also cool to use when you're flying for managing jet lag. So I got to say I was a little skeptical about the noticing improvement after one use, but literally I use these glasses and my sleep is actually already pretty good. I use them for one day, and I have to say after one day, I had the best sleep of my life. I just felt so rested. So these glasses, they ship free and they're tracked for all orders anywhere in the world. And also they have all their frames come in prescription, non-prescription, and reading glasses. Plus you can send in your frames and they'll add the blue light blocking and green light blocking lenses to your frame. So this is an easy hack that you can add to your fertility toolkit. All you do is go to BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com. Use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast at checkout and receive a 15% discount. That's BlueBlocks, BLUBLOX.com, and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast to receive your 15% discount. Hey there. Thanks so much for listening to the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast. And I've got a favor to ask you. If you are enjoying learning about the functional approach to fertility, consider going to iTunes and rating and reviewing the podcast. This is how it helps the show reach more people that are struggling with infertility, knowing that there's another approach that really can get to the bottom of why it's not working in the first place. So all you need to do do is if you're on the app or the desktop, just go in and consider leaving a 5-star rating and leave a review. And there is step-by-step instructions in the show notes showing you exactly how to do that. So if you can just take a few minutes, just take the few minutes right now. You can pause this recording, come back, leave the review. It would really mean the world to me and help others that are on the fertility journey as well. Take care. I didn't need to go to donor eggs. Obviously, I don't regret it. I have beautiful children. I could have done things differently, restored. I was still cycling back in my 20s. I could have looked at my health, the environmental toxins, the stress I was under.
Many, many women are being told their eggs are too old. That's often merely an assumption that's not based on actual evidence. The reason being that there is no direct test of egg quality. You can't test egg quality.
It's the man who's got a food sensitivity or he has a zinc deficiency.
Like there can be a root cause to these symptoms that are, quote unquote, period problems, that the doctor will pass you a pill without any question of why.
And some part of you knows that if you can reframe your journey from not want to struggle, or if it is struggle, learn how to embrace the struggle. Learn how to embrace it.
Most conditions in the child occur during the 9 months of development. It's the genetic switches are turned on or turned off, and they're pre-programmed. So you are in such a powerful, amazing position to do amazing things for your kids.
Why is IVF the first step? Because we believe it should be the last step. Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey there, I'm Sarah Clark, founder of Fab Fertile and your host. I believe the functional approach is the first step for anyone struggling with infertility, and my aim is to help you get pregnant naturally. Today I'm welcoming Justine Altman back to the podcast, and we're digging into the AIP diet and what you need to know if you are trying to conceive. Definitely check out episode number 6 for a functional medicine 101 talk, plus a look at some of the tools we use to help couples conceive. Justine is part of my team here at Fab Fertile. She's an integral part of our couples coaching program, which uses functional lab testing, diet, and lifestyle changes to dramatically improve conception. If you're struggling with infertility, your body is desperately trying to tell you something, and focusing on your health will either help you get pregnant naturally, or if you do need to go to the fertility clinic, it will improve your chances of success. Justine's a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. She was diagnosed with PCOS and struggled with infertility. She had her first baby with fertility treatments, but after taking a functional approach, was able to conceive her second child naturally. Thanks so much for listening. And I'm so thankful that you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe. And if you know someone else who is on the fertility journey, please share this podcast with them. Hey, Justine, excited to have you back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Today, we are going to be digging into the autoimmune protocol diet. Just sort of as we are with our Fab Fertile method, we typically will have both the partners do the elimination diet, which is the gold standard. Definitely check out that episode, how and why to do an elimination diet, on the podcast. And then we have people do food sensitivity testing. So then that will tweak the elimination diet. So typically foods in the yellow you'd keep up for 60 days and foods in the red you keep up for 90 days. And then if necessary, after reviewing testing and making a determination, the AIP diet may be recommended for you. We're going to go into today talking about, well, what exactly is the AIP diet and is it right for you? So Justine, can you just share with us what is the AIP diet?
Yeah, so AIP stands for autoimmune protocol, and it's sort of a version of the paleo diet. So the paleo diet is, based on this idea that we should be eating the way humans ate long, long ago. And so basically it focuses on vegetables, on meats, on fruits, and on healthy fats. Paleo also allows for a handful of other smaller food groups, but AIP sort of focuses on those 4 primary groups. So again, the veggies, meats, fruits, and healthy fats. And basically the idea is that we're trying to eliminate any inflammation in the body and at the same time give the body all the nutrients it needs. So that basically we're avoiding all the things that cause dysfunction in the body and giving the body all the resources it needs for everything to work the way it's supposed to.
And so it can be helpful. So there's these 4 categories. So nutrient density, so gut health, hormones, and immune system. Can you just talk about each one and kind of why the AIP diet can be helpful for these things?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the standard American diet, we eat a lot of things that are belly fillers, right? They fill us up. They make sure that we don't feel hungry anymore and that our blood sugar isn't dropping. But they're really sort of weak in nutrients. And most grains, in my opinion, fit into this category. And then, of course, anything that's got sugar in it, any kind of sweet treats is going to fall into that category, where it can fill us up and it can sort of give us that little dopamine hit that we like to get from sweet treats. But it doesn't actually give our body anything to work with, right? It doesn't give us any good, clean energy or vitamins or minerals to power any of our organs or systems in the body. And so when we eat from the AIP diet, we're eating really nutrient-dense foods, right? We're eating a really sort of a nice variety of different colors of vegetables. We're eating good, healthy meats that are full of good omega-3s and other healthy fats, right? So good cholesterol that we have to have for our hormones. And basically, we're just eating these nutrient-dense foods that gives our body the best opportunity to get all of the vitamins and minerals that it needs in your 3 square meals a day, basically. It's essentially this trade-off, right? We're not eating more food or less food than we used to necessarily. Sometimes that shifts a little bit, but that's not the point. The point is that we're removing the foods that cause inflammation and we're focusing on the ones that give us a lot of nutrients so that everything just your body starts to redistribute how many vitamins and minerals it gives to different parts of the body so that everything can start to work at 100% or nearly 100% again.
And then gut health. Yeah. So we talk a lot about in this podcast, gut health and leaky gut or intestinal permeability. I know I've done a food sensitivity test and it's come back intolerant to all my favorite foods because I had a leaky gut from all the antibiotics, the chronic stress, the birth control pill that I was taking. And also I had gut infections. So why would an AIP diet be helpful for gut health?
Yeah, so there are certain foods that contribute to leaky gut. So gluten is a big one. Other foods that we have sensitivities to, especially if we don't know that we have sensitivities to some of those other foods, they contribute to leaky gut as well. And leaky gut is when we have the cells of our digestive tract start to separate just a little bit, where there's a little gap in between them. And now we have a little leak in the gut. And those things in the gut can start to get into our bloodstream. And that causes all sorts of issues for us. Can lead to autoimmunity. And of course, the name of this diet is the autoimmune protocol, right? And so we're trying to avoid autoimmunity from happening. Or if it has happened, we're trying to help your body repair itself so that you don't have symptoms related to autoimmunity anymore. The more we eat nutrient-dense foods, those nutrient-dense foods are really repairing to the gut, right? They're really nourishing. And the gut actually starts to repair whatever leaky gut may have been there in the past. And in addition, we've stopped the inflow of the stressful foods, right? Those stressful foods aren't coming in. They're not making leaky gut worse. They're not contributing to it still being an issue. And so it's basically just this trade-off. We've moved out the old and in with the good new stuff.
And then the hormone piece, that's why we're all here for preparing our body for a successful pregnancy. So why would the AIP then help with hormone balance?
Yeah. So again, it's about this nutrient density, right? We're giving our body all the things that it needs. We talk all the time about how in order for the body to make hormones, it has to have plenty of good cholesterol and it has to have plenty of vitamins, especially B vitamins. The standard diet, if we're not sort of paying attention to the quite so much to the foods that we're taking in, really just doesn't have enough of those things. And, some of the research out there even tells us that even our vegetables, some of our vegetables are as low as 30 to 40% nutrient density in vitamins and minerals as they were, say, 100 years ago. And so it's really important that, say we eat a pound of food in a day, that pound of food is really nutrient-dense food, right? Full of vitamins and minerals, as opposed to, say, a piece of white bread, which is going to give us very little. And so our hormones really benefit from us having all the resources that we need. And it also really benefits from the fact that now the foods that we're eating tend to be rich in the things specifically that help support hormones. There's sort of one last piece, which is when we're eating the autoimmune protocol, we tend to eat significantly lower carb diets than we used to. That's not the goal of AIP, is that we're eating low carb. That's sort of a different sort of diet philosophy, but it naturally happens, right? If we're focusing on veggies and meats and fruits, and we've cut out grains and sugar and other things that tend to be carb heavy, then we tend to be able to sort of bring some balance to blood sugar. And that plays a big role in hormones, especially if there's been some level of like estrogen dominance and things related to PCOS. We know that has metabolic ties and is often related to blood sugar imbalance and some insulin challenges and things like that. And so the more little by little that we can participate with the AIP diet, we tend to see blood sugar start to regulate itself, which also helps with the hormones.
And then the last one, the immune system. And obviously that's a big hot topic right now and obviously really important for for conception. So the immune system.
Yeah. So, again, it's about this nutrient density, right? We're getting all of these great things, and there's tons of vitamin C in good, healthy foods that are on the AIP diet. And tons of all of the other nutrients that are involved in good immunity as well. And then, of course, we know the immune system, roughly 80% of the immune system is in the gut. And so we already talked about how it helps with leaky gut. It helps repair the gut. It helps nourish the gut. And the gut is where we absorb all of our nutrients, right? And so as the gut gets stronger and stronger, more and more repaired, we do a better and better job of absorbing nutrients. So not only are we taking in more nutrients, but we're absorbing more of them too, rather than them just moving through us, just passing through. And so everything we do there helps the gut, which in turn helps the immune system, because that's primarily where most of the immune system lives, is in the gut.
And definitely for the listeners to check out, I've done a couple podcast episodes with the efficacy of the AIP diet and how it's improved symptoms with Hashimoto's. So there was 18 people in a study. One had to leave the study early because she got pregnant within 8 weeks. And people that were doing the AIP diet, they were able to improve a number of different lifestyle factors and see improvements with their Hashimoto's symptoms. And then for irritable bowel disease, so Crohn's and colitis, I think an average person had it for like 17 to 18 years. So long time. And they did the AIP diet, and within a very short period of time, 6 weeks, some of them were, I think 75% went into remission. So those two studies, I go into detail about them on the podcast. So you can search them, the Hashimoto's and the AIP diet, as well as irritable bowel disease and the AIP diet. And they were both published in the Journal of American Medicine in 2019 and 2020. So definitely check those out. So these studies are catching up with what we already knew, and from, anecdotally working with clients. You talked about this in the beginning, but so the AIP diet versus the paleo diet, what is the main difference?
Yeah. So there are a couple of food groups that we try to exclude in the first phase of the autoimmune protocol diet. So the paleo diet includes, the list is eggs, nuts, seeds, nightshade veggies, and legumes. And so eggs, that's pretty straightforward. Nuts, so we're talking about things like almonds and Brazil nuts and cashews. Seeds, so those are things like our chia seeds and our hemp hearts, sunflower seeds, things like that. Nightshades is a group of vegetables that is high in a particular acid that tends to be inflammatory for some people. And that includes tomatoes and white potatoes, any chilies or peppers. So things like green pepper or any kind of bell pepper. And then a handful of other sort of random spices. So nutmeg is one of them. Paprika is another one. So some of the deeper reds, basically. And then legumes, which includes peanuts and things like green beans and snap peas and beans in general. And so some of these, so you might be thinking like, those sound like really nutrient dense foods. And you are absolutely right. All the things that I just listed off, the eggs, the nuts, the seeds, the nightshades, the legumes, they are nutrient dense foods. And for a lot of us, they're really good foods for us to have in the diet. However, we know that these foods tend to be typical culprits for a lot of people for aggravating symptoms. Eggs, for example, I would say when we do food sensitivity testing with people on eggs, if I were making a guess, I would say it's probably 40% of people have some kind of challenge with eggs, in which case it's a big enough percentage that we really want to eliminate it in the beginning of the AIP diet. Because what we're really trying to do is just calm down this inflammation fire, right? We've got this fire raging, this raging inflammation going on in the body, and we want it to just be able to calm down so that we've sort of got this clean slate. And then what we typically do is we'll reintroduce these foods shortly down the road so that, if eggs are just fine for you, we'll find that out and you'll be able to have them back. And those are a great food to have back in. The same thing with the nuts and the seeds and the nightshades and the legumes. All of those categories have certain aspects of them, so anti-nutrients basically in them that are inflammatory for some people and not for others. But so we err on the safe side in the beginning of the autoimmune protocol, just to sort of take all of the stress we possibly can off of the body, so that after the first 30 days, we're really just feeling amazing. And then we're in a position to be able to add foods back in.
Yeah, I'm doing an abbreviated paleo / AIP. I haven't done nuts in a number of years because I went on when I switched over to gluten-free, I found almonds and almond flour, and I baked and I had smoothies and almond butter, and I just went crazy. And now when I have an almond, it makes me throw up. So that's not very good because of the leaky gut situation, which I since cleaned up. And then I tested almonds probably 3 years ago, and like within 30 minutes threw up, and I just have not retested because I really don't want to go through that again. So maybe I could try it again, but I've stayed away. So we see that many times where people are eating a lot of one food because the body wasn't meant to eat large quantities of nuts. And then, then you end up developing a sensitivity to it. Anything you wanted to say there?
Yeah, we see that all the time. Mm-hmm. This happens a lot when people first make a switch, right? And so if you've adopted a paleo or paleo-like palate, it's pretty common for almonds to become a big staple in our diets. The same thing with coconut products, right? So coconut milk and coconut oil and coconut water and coconut everything, coconut aminos, coconut in our body care products. And we see this happen, right? So what happens is, it was a food that wasn't a huge staple in our diet before, and suddenly it is. And the body just sort of overreacts to it because we've overdone it, right? And if we're talking sort of diet theory, there's this idea that we want to rotate foods and not have the same food more than every 4 days, right? And so if you think about it, we really are creatures of habit, and that doesn't serve us because we do better when we get a bigger variety of foods. And so if you've switched to a paleo palate and almonds are in your food or in more than one meal every single day, then chances are that your body has grown a little bit tired of that particular food, and it has potential to cause some kind of symptoms for you. Same thing with coconut, same thing with anything else. Nuts and seeds tend to be really popular with the paleo diet because we've eliminated all of the sort of junk snacks, basically. Mm-hmm. So that's a really easy thing to turn to. So that's pretty common. If we overdo it with a food, we tend to develop a sensitivity to it.
And then so many times we're dealing with complex cases such as low AMH and high FSH and diminished ovarian reserve, as well as premature ovarian insufficiency. And many times we see hand in hand an autoimmune disease could be present. Typically, we're seeing more Hashimoto's, or we could see celiac as well, or diabetes. But typically for an autoimmune disease, we think we're going to be on medication for the rest of our life. And even though you potentially still could be on medication, there's other things we can do to improve the lifestyle and symptoms with the AIP diet. So can you talk about AIP and autoimmune disease and how we've talked about the studies that we're seeing with autoimmune disease? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so again, it goes back to our gut health, right? We're giving our gut all the things it needs, and we're avoiding the things that cause damage. And the gut then is able to start to heal this leaky gut situation. And that leaky gut situation is really strongly connected to the development of autoimmune conditions. And so if we're able to clean that up, if we're able to help the gut be nourished and start to repair itself, then in a lot of cases, the autoimmunity has potential to go away entirely, or at least to be really reduced, to end up in a remission situation. And we have certainly seen, time and time again, where, people that are really feeling very unwell in a lot of ways, all that stuff just fades away, and the energy comes back, the vitality comes back. And, even on, in black and white on paper, we see antibodies really go down. Right. And so they're no longer producing the antibodies that were the key factor in the autoimmune condition.
Yeah, we've seen that over and over again, where like antibodies being at 900 and then going down to, under 10.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so in a short period of time, you can make a major change. Again, if you've got that, as I say, the fire kind of brewing there, you need to then, this is a really helpful thing to help address that. Digging in more because I think sometimes people, you hear the AIP diet, why would I want to do this if I'm dealing with infertility? If you have the low AMH or the high FSH, or you don't have an autoimmune disease, and you have diminished ovarian reserve or premature ovarian failure, or even, unexplained infertility, why would we want to look at this AIP?
Our hormones get out of whack for all sorts of reasons, but essentially the body doesn't prioritize our reproductive system if there's dysfunction going on elsewhere, right? It sort of senses, it's sort of smart in that way, and senses, well, we've got some other things to deal with to make sure that you stay safe before we ever conceive. And the other thing that happens is, when we're stressed, and I mean stress, in every sense of the word, so mental, emotional stress, or stress from food sensitivities, or from medications, or from toxins, or from leaky gut, or from any of the things that can be going on inside of our body that we can't really see, our stress hormone goes up, our cortisol goes up, and the body prioritizes putting its resources, putting its vitamins and minerals into cortisol, rather than putting any of those resources into making hormones. And so basically our body is saying we're prioritizing survival in the moment rather than procreation. And so what happens is, when we do the AIP diet, again, we're getting all those great nutrients in and we're avoiding the inflammation, and the body goes, oh, now we can reorganize. Now we can redistribute, and we can start to give the reproductive organs all the resources they need to make hormones again. And the hormones start to come back online. And because ultimately when we have hormone imbalance, it's very rarely the problem, right? The hormone imbalance is a symptom of a problem further upstream. The hormone imbalance is happening just because the body doesn't have enough resources to give to it, or doesn't want to give the resources to the reproductive system. It's usually not because there's something wrong with the reproductive organs themselves. And so if we're able to eliminate the stress, and diet is a major, major factor in the stress on the body, changing diet alone, we're holistic here, right? We want you to get good sleep too, and the right exercise, and reducing stress in all the ways. But diet is, in my opinion, is the biggest one, right? We can have the biggest impact the fastest if we make changes to our diet. And so we get all that stress off of us, and the hormones just start to come back online all on their own.
I think a lot of people are sort of lean into the diet piece. Most people we've seen have made, significant dietary changes, but it is, really tweaking this, as you say, doing the elimination diet, doing the food sensitivity testing, seeing if AIP diet may not be right for you, but it may be right for you. So then adding this to your toolkit to see, how do we then use this if it's right for you? And so really, how long do we need to do this? Because it is really quite restrictive, right? I have done the full AIP diet, and it can be restrictive. So how long would you say you'd need to do it for?
It's funny, after doing carnivore AIP, not restrictive at all.
Yeah, share about the carnivore diet, Justine. I've been seeing you eating your bowls of meat.
Yeah, so I don't even know how long it's been, 6 or 7 weeks now. We've been eating meat only. Not to say that there haven't been little cheats, but it certainly does put some perspective on how liberal the autoimmune protocol diet is after doing that. But so it does. It is restrictive to just the veggies and the meats and the fruits and the healthy fats. And even as we talked about, the nightshade veggies are even not really an option in the autoimmune protocol. And so the idea is that we do this diet at 100%. So we do it as perfect as we can for the first 30 days. And so during that time, we're eating only those 4 groups of foods. And then when the 30 days is up, we start to reintroduce other paleo foods. So the eggs and the nuts and the seeds and the nightshade veggies and the legumes. So one at a time, every 3 to 5 days. So if you hit your 30 days on the AIP, then on day 31, you can bring something back. And I recommend bringing back anything whatever it is you want back the most from the paleo palette. So whether that's eggs, or that's almonds, or that's peanut butter, whatever it may be, go ahead and bring back whatever thing you want, and have a little bit of whatever that is over 3 to 5 days. I usually tell people 4 days, because that just keeps it simple. 4 days for everything. If you decide that's eggs, have a little bit of eggs, have eggs for breakfast on the first day. If you do fine, then go ahead and have it again on the second day. You can have eggs in something, right? So you can make a dish that includes an egg, but basically test it a little bit for every day for 4 days, and just stay really observant, right? Because what happens is at the end of 30 days of AIP, usually people are feeling so different from before, right? The energy is so good, and the belly isn't bloated anymore, and there's no more diarrhea, and there's no more constipation. And, so things are just feeling good. And now you're in a position where before you didn't necessarily notice the effects from one individual food or another, but now you do. So now, if eggs were the only thing you reintroduced, did you have a setback? Did you have a breakout? Did you feel sluggish? Did you feel cranky? Did you feel, muscle aches? Did you feel headachy? Was your, anxiety or depression elevated? And if any of those things came creeping back in the 4 days you reintroduce eggs, that's your sign. That's your sign that your body's not ready for eggs just yet. And it doesn't mean you won't be forever, but it means right now your body's not quite ready for eggs. And so if that happens, we take the eggs back out, and we start the 4-day reintroduction process over again with some other food. So maybe you pick cashews this time, and you do that again. And if again you have symptoms, then that's another one that's on the no list for a little while. But essentially, we continue to reintroduce paleo foods until we've brought everything that we want back in our diet back into our diet. And I always recommend the absolute last things should be the things that are highest in inflammation causing. So things like grains, dairy, sugar, and alcohol.
And then, so as far as some resources here, definitely. So I interviewed Dr. Sarah Ballantyne for the podcast. So she developed the blog, Paleo Mom. So definitely check that out. There's tons of resources on her site. It's amazing. Autoimmune wellness. So Angie Alt was the one I interviewed for the, one of the studies, the, IBD study. So from autoimmune wellness and then healing autoimmune. And as Justine says, basically Google AIP. And now just over the last, I don't even 5 years, there's like a huge amount of recipes available on the internet to check that out. Pinterest. You can definitely check out the podcast episode I did with Caitlin Townsend, and she's a chef with a nutrition background. And we talked about foods for the elimination diet as well as foods for the AIP diet. Like, this is not about you starving, nor is it about you chopping all day long in the kitchen either. So there's some really good tips about keeping this simple on that podcast episode. So that's how to eat foods that are great for your fertility. That's with Caitlin Townsend. Anything you wanted to say there for some tips to keep it simple?
Oh, yeah. So meat sticks. I'm a big fan of meat sticks. Get yourself some meat sticks for snacking.
There you go.
And otherwise, we try to aim for 100% compliance if we can in the first 30 days. But, we're human, right? And so if the going gets rough, like, your kiddo gets sick and you need to spend an evening in the hospital, right? You can't stick to it, and don't kill yourself over trying to make it perfect. And the same thing if this is over a holiday, right? Do your best. And at very least, think about what kind of upgrade can I make, right? And so if you can't, have a perfect option, right? But think about ways that you can make it as good as you can get it. So at least, for example, if, you have to have bread one day for some reason, well, at least let's make it a gluten-free bread, or let's make it a gluten-free and organic if we can get it, right? And so every little way that we can upgrade is going to help continue to reduce stress as much as possible on the body.
And so could you just give us a quick example of a dinner and what that would look like on AIP?
Yeah. So, I don't tend to follow recipes. I'm more of a, throw it in the pan.
Yep.
And it doesn't have a name kind of person. But basically, so every meal is essentially one kind of meat and a vegetable or two or three. And so sometimes, a lot of times it's a stir fry. For us, there's a dish we really love, and there's tons of great recipes online. It's called egg roll in a bowl. And it's basically a dish with cabbage and whatever kind of protein source you like. So whether that's chicken or pork or beef or shrimp, or we've done it with bison, we've done it with venison, we've done it with elk, and essentially some coconut aminos for some flavor and some ginger. And sometimes we'll throw onion in it. Sometimes it's got chopped carrots, sometimes not. Basically, it's very much like the insides of an egg roll, just without the egg roll itself. And it's delicious.
Nice. And so along with this, obviously, with the overwhelm that we're talking about, potentially, changing your diet, that's what we like to do it in stages: elimination, food sensitivity, AIP. Other people have different line of thought on this. Dr. Sarah Ballantyne is like, rip the Band-Aid off, just do AIP and get her done. But maybe for you, you're not in that frame of mind. So it is important to keep it simple. Everything we talk about here over and over again is focus on your sleep. So making sure you're getting good sleep, and, the hashtag self-care buzzword, but really self-care is equally as important as eating the right diet. So looking at your stressors, we've done lots of podcast episodes on chronic stress and how stress in general impacts, fertility, mental, emotional stress. And then also here, we're talking about biochemical stress. Anything else to help with overwhelm?
Yeah, again, just we're not looking for perfection, right? So we do as good as we can, do your best, give it your all. And, when the going gets rough, if something doesn't work out, that's okay. Just pick back up where you left off tomorrow. Another good website to check out is Shop AIP. They have a little AIP snack. So, I always keep one of those. There's an Epic meat bar in my purse. So it's like you can just kind of keep those things on the fly. So you don't, if you happen to be out, you don't get stranded and then you're grabbing for something, or you just into that hangry situation where you're in a bad situation and you're grabbing for something really bad. So you need to be a little more prepared. Typically not how I roll, but now I do. I'm prepared when I leave, although we're not leaving the house much lately, so I don't need to worry as much. And so let's just kind of go through the foods to avoid here. We have a little list, and I'll let Justine kind of take us through, just kind of have a little summary of what foods to avoid, so you have an idea. Yeah. So we want to avoid any bad fats, right? So any trans fats. And so this is things like margarine or anything called canola oil or olive oil, or not olive oil, vegetable oil. We want to avoid any additives. So anything that's got a chemical name on the packaging, that's something we don't want in our bodies at all. Any artificial colorings or flavorings, anything that's sugar or sugar-like. So high fructose corn syrup. The sweeteners that are okay on AIP are honey and maple syrup and molasses. We want to avoid grains. We want to avoid dairy. And so that includes all kinds of dairy, right? So we're talking milk, yogurt, cheese, cottage cheese. I can't think if I'm missing anything, but all dairy, all cow dairy is out. And all dairy, any kind of dairy for that matter, during the first 30 days.
And it's interesting when people, it's interesting, this comes up over and over again when people say dairy, but I don't really eat eggs. It's interesting with that little food pyramid where we see the cheese and then the egg. Well, wait a minute, there's coming from two different animals. So yeah, eggs are not dairy.
Right. We talked about grains being out, pseudo grains also. So things like quinoa, they technically meet the letter of the law, but they sort of don't meet the spirit of the AIP law, which is we're trying to avoid grains in general. We're avoiding legumes. So that, again, that's the beans and green beans and peanuts, stuff like that. Processed and refined food. So, if it comes in a box or a bag in general, that's probably not the right kind of food to go for. Any kind of refined sugars, again, any kind of sugar substitutes. So we're talking about things like, I'm blanking on the names of these things, but any of these artificial sweeteners that are in sodas.
What about like aspartame and things like that? What about the swerve and the monk fruit and the stevia? What's your on those sugar substitutes?
Yeah, so there are a few things that are okay. So stevia, if it's pure stevia leaf, most practitioners tend to agree that that's an okay substance. Although I can tell you that I've had a lot of clients over the years who have identified stevia as a headache causer. But all of the other ones, so the monk fruit, it's almost impossible to find monk fruit that doesn't have sugar alcohols in them. So erythritol, and likewise, so all of those other sweeteners, they all tend to have something in them that's not ideal and that tends to cause inflammation for some people. We also want to avoid any other refined vegetable oils. So again, like if it's called vegetable oil, regardless of what that means, that's a sort of a goofy name, vegetable, right? Like it's pretty generic, but you want to avoid anything called vegetable oil. We want to avoid eggs, the nightshade veggies again, alcohol, coffee, because it falls into the nuts and seeds category, and nuts and seeds themselves. We do get a lot of questions on the elimination diet. Hey, can I still drink? Yeah, that's a no. No drinking on any of these diets. But eventually, potentially you could bring it back. We've talked before about, if you're doing more of a hard liquor, but, like a tequila or maybe a potato vodka. But for now, no alcohol. Any final thoughts on AIP, Justine? Yeah, just, I can't sing its praises highly enough. I've seen just really, really dramatic things happen for people in a very short amount of time. And a lot of people who have said like, this was the number one most life-changing thing that's ever happened to them.
Amazing. So commit and get going on the AIP diet if it's right for you. If you want to book a call and we can chat about the process that's right for you. I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 4 spots available per month to work with us. I would like to invite you and your partner to a Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call. And this call is for you if you meet at least one of these criteria. You've been trying to get pregnant for at least 2 years. You've been through at least one failed IUI or IVF. This calls for action takers. If you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. If you're seriously considering working with us, go to FabFertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. That's FabFertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. Hey there, excited to announce that registration is now open for our free fertility diet challenge. The challenge starts on Monday, April the 19th, 2021. And in this live 5-day challenge, you'll learn which foods are right for your fertility so that you can prepare for pregnancy success, which foods could be harming your fertility so that you don't waste time consuming the wrong diet, and simple steps you can implement right away so that you can optimize preconception health and get pregnant naturally. I have worked with a chef who has a background in nutrition to prepare these new spring recipes that will help prepare your body for your baby. This challenge is for you and your partner. So to join the challenge, you just go to Fertility Diet Freebie, FREEBIE.com. That's Fertility Diet Freebie. Challenge starts April the 19th. It's live. Go to fertilitydietfreebie.com. Melatonin is important for female fertility. It helps regulate hormones and maintain the body's circadian rhythms. Plus, it helps determine the frequency and duration of the menstrual cycle. Plus, it impacts sperm count and motility. Blue and green light negatively impact our melatonin production. That's why we recommend Blue Blocks, blue and green light sleep glasses to all our one-to-one clients. Simply go to blueblocks, BLUBLOX.com and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast at checkout to receive your 15% discount. That's blueblocks, BLUBLOX.com and use the coupon code GetPregnantPodcast. The Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, including show notes and links, provides information with respect to healthy living, nutrition, lab testing, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.